Zeus. Zeus was the king of the Greek gods and the supreme authority of the Olympian order. He ruled the sky, thunder, law, and divine justice, but his most important role was maintaining balance between gods and humans. After overthrowing the Titans, Zeus established a new cosmic order, making him the symbol of stability after chaos. Thunderbolts were not just weapons, they were signs of divine enforcement. When Zeus acted, it meant boundaries had been crossed. Zeus was deeply tied to law and morality. He protected oaths, punished liars, and enforced justice among both gods and mortals. Breaking a promise sworn in his name was considered one of the worst crimes imaginable. He also upheld Xenia, the sacred law of hospitality, which governed how strangers were treated. In this way, Zeus shaped everyday human behavior, not just divine politics. Despite his authority, Zeus was flawed. His many affairs caused constant conflict, especially with Hera, and often brought suffering to mortals. This made Zeus complex rather than idealized. Without Zeus, Greek mythology would have no central force to regulate power. Chaos would return, and divine order would collapse. Hera. Hera was the goddess of marriage, family, queenship, and lawful authority. While Zeus ruled through power, Hera ruled through structure. She represented marriage not as romance, but as a social institution that maintained order, inheritance, and legitimacy. Hera protected the idea that bonds mattered, and that betrayal carried consequences. Much of Hera's mythology focuses on her anger towards Zeus's lovers and illegitimate children. This is often misunderstood as cruelty, but in Greek culture it reflected her role as guardian of lawful unions. She punished those who disrupted social stability. Hera was not emotional chaos, she was institutional enforcement. Hera was also a political goddess. Cities worshipped her as a protector of royal power, and queens prayed to her for authority and fertility. She embodied power exercised through position rather than force. Without Hera, marriage would lose meaning, inheritance would collapse, and kingship would lack legitimacy. Hera represented the idea that societies survive through rules, not passion. Poseidon. Poseidon was the god of the sea, earthquakes, storms, and horses. He embodied the raw, uncontrollable forces of nature. While Zeus ruled the sky, Poseidon ruled the unstable world beneath it. Calm seas meant prosperity and trade. Storms meant destruction, shipwrecks, and death. Poseidon decided which one humans received. Sailors, fishermen, and coastal cities depended on Poseidon's favor. He was unpredictable and easily angered. A single insult could result in generations of suffering, as seen in myths where entire cities paid for offending him. Earthquakes were believed to be caused by Poseidon striking the ground, earning him the title Earthshaker. Poseidon represented power without restraint. Unlike Zeus, he did not prioritize justice or balance. He acted emotionally. Without Poseidon, the Greeks would have no divine explanation for natural disasters or the sea's violence. He reminded humanity that survival depended on respecting forces far greater than themselves. Athena. Athena was the goddess of wisdom, strategy, warfare, and civilization. She represented intelligence applied to conflict rather than brute force. Born fully armed from Zeus's head, Athena symbolized thought, planning, and rational control. Unlike Ares, she did not enjoy violence. She valued precision, discipline, and preparation. Athena guided heroes by offering knowledge, tools, and strategy instead of fighting for them. She taught people how to build cities, organize laws, and develop crafts such as weaving and architecture. Athena stood for progress and structure. She was the protector of Athens, which saw her as the embodiment of civilization itself. In warfare, Athena represented tactics, formations, and defensive planning. Without Athena, Greek society would lack strategy, law, and organized governance. She showed that intelligence could be more powerful than strength, and that civilization survived not through rage but through control. Apollo. Apollo was the god of prophecy, light, reason, music, healing, and order. He represented clarity in a world full of uncertainty. While many gods embodied chaos or emotion, Apollo stood for balance, logic, and restraint. His most important role was as the master of prophecy through the Oracle of Delphi. Kings, generals, and entire cities consulted Apollo before making major decisions, believing his guidance shaped destiny itself. Apollo was a god of duality. He could bring healing and disease, harmony and destruction. His arrows were said to cause sudden illness, but he was also the god of medicine and recovery. This reflected the Greek belief that order and punishment were closely linked. Apollo enforced balance by correcting excess. He was also the patron of music and the arts, believing beauty followed structure and proportion. Apollo's famous principle, nothing in excess, captured Greek ideals perfectly. Without Apollo, prophecy would vanish, healing would lose its divine source, and art would lack harmony. He represented the idea that reason and discipline were essential to both civilization and the cosmos. Artemis. Artemis was the goddess of the hunt. wilderness, childbirth, and natural boundaries. She ruled the world beyond cities, where nature remained untouched by human control. While Apollo represented order and civilization, Artemis represented independence and balance within the wild. Artemis was fiercely protective of young women, children, and animals. She punished those who violated natural laws or showed arrogance toward nature. Hunters who disrespected her domain often met brutal consequences. Artemis demanded humility, not worship through temples or cities. Unlike many gods, Artemis rejected marriage entirely. She remained independent, answering to no one. This made her a symbol of autonomy and self-rule. She governed transitions, birth, survival, and the fragile line between life and death. Without Artemis, the Greeks believed nature would become unbalanced, and humanity would forget its place in the world. She reminded civilization that it existed alongside nature, not above it. Ares. Ares was the god of war in its most violent and uncontrolled form. He represented bloodlust, rage, destruction, and the chaos of battle. Unlike Athena, who valued strategy, Ares thrived on confusion and brutality. He did not care who won, only that violence occurred. Greek society viewed Ares with fear rather than admiration. Even the other gods disliked him. His presence on the battlefield meant suffering, panic, and loss of control. Yet Ares was still necessary. War was a reality of ancient life, and Ares embodied its true cost. Ares showed that conflict was not heroic by default. It was ugly, destructive, and unpredictable. Without Ares, war would be romanticized. He existed to remind humanity that violence consumes everything it touches. Ares was not a god to aspire to, but one that explained why war left nothing unchanged. Hades. Hades was the god of the underworld and ruler of the dead. Despite modern interpretations, Hades was not evil. He represented inevitability, balance, and final order. Death was not punishment. It was a necessary part of existence. Hades governed the realm where all souls eventually arrived, regardless of status. He maintained strict boundaries between the living and the dead, preventing chaos from crossing worlds. Unlike other gods, Hades rarely interfered in human affairs. His power was absolute but distant. Hades ensured that life had meaning by giving it an end. Without death, growth, ambition, and purpose would collapse. He represented stability through finality. Without Hades, the Greek cosmos would lose balance, and existence itself would spiral into disorder. He was not feared because he was cruel, but respected because he was unavoidable.